saying we don't need roads.
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing so well. I'm so excited that your dog's going to be a part of this. This kind of makes my day.
Always. I think it detracts from the fact that I didn't have time to put on makeup so people can focus on this, on her natural eyeliner.
Honestly, more people. I literally got stopped. So I adopted my dog Daenerys, who is across the room right over there, sleeping on my couch.
Daenerys!
Who's a spoiled brat, and I do like a lot of stuff with animal shelters on my morning show.
Yeah.
And I literally got stopped the other day, and I thought, oh, they want to talk to me about like what I do on the show, and they're like, your dog is great, and I was like, that's honestly, I'm more used to getting stopped for her than anything.
It's always humbling when I'm like, did you want a picture? They're like, of your dog. I'm
Of
like,
the dog.
absolutely.
And in fact, actually, if you could take it, that would be great.
Of just us and your dog.
Yeah,
We don't know
exactly.
who you are, actually.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, seriously, thank you so much. I'm so excited. The Chicago Theater is such an awesome venue. I actually used to live right around the corner from that. So I love that theater so much.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Very cool.
So I've got a handful of questions for you. I'm just jump into it if you're ready for it.
Let's do it.
Awesome. Cool. So I'm going to tell you honestly, just as a fan, everything that about the stories that you tell in your stand-up to me always feels so genuine, authentic, and real. So I am curious, what is that moment in life where you sort of pause and go like, oh, this is a thing I'm going to talk about in the show? Like, do you instantly grab a pen and start writing things down? Like, what is that moment like where you realize like there's comedy gold in there?
It's they're like, I've struck gold. Sometimes you'll say something and you'll get a laugh. And you'll be like, I like that. Like that sticks in my head. A lot of times it'll be like a friend will be like, you should say that on stage. And you're like, oh, like a weird part of comedy is realizing what you just said is good enough to be repeated. So I have a notebook. I have an app in my phone, which is just the notes app that comes with the phone. It's not like a special comics app. I've got scraps of paper. Sometimes I'll jot something down on my hand and then I get up that night and I work it out. But it's a constant practice to be like, wait, you should say that later for other people, not just to your husband.
Okay, let me ask you, just because, and I love that you said that your friends will say, hey, you should try this, because my friends are the most supportive people in the world, but also the harshest critics. And so sometimes like they'll be like, are you interviewing me right now? Like, are you like testing out? Like do your friends ever call you out for trying
never.
bits?
It's such an amateur move. I would never do that, ever. And it's always, people are like, are you doing bits right now? I'm like, no, I'm naturally charismatic and funny. That's what some comics are, not all of us. And it really isn't friends, as I should have just said. It's like another comic that I hang out with. Someone you spend time with will be like, you should write that down, because I'm always calling that out when I talk to other comics if they say something funny. And it is a weird feeling when a comic says something funny and you're like, that's funny. And then you hear them say it on stage and you're like, don't do that. Don't disrespect me like that. Just be organic in the moment. You don't have to do your act. Like, is your personality that bad?
That actually perfectly leads into my next question, because I want to talk about, I guess, just like the pressures of being a comedian in regards to just normal everyday life moments. Because sometimes we forget that like it is an art and it is your job and you do put a lot of work into your comedy. So when you're at a dinner party, or if you run into a fan on the street, is there this pressure on your end to be funny, or an expectation on the part of the people that run into you in the street that like you kind of have to break out into a routine in the middle of the street?
No, not at all. And you're going to have a very difficult life if you go through it, just always trying to meet other people's expectations. I think I always just want to be genuine. I'm always thankful. And I think kindness is what people remember. Because usually if a fan's excited to meet you, they get so excited they don't even hear half of what you're saying. So just always treating your fans with respect and always like giving people that moment. But at a dinner party or something, I don't think any comic is worried about if they're going to be funny. Like, you either will or won't. But some of the funniest comics I know are kind of like introverted, quiet people. So I'm too old to worry about performing all the time.
It's so funny you mentioned about like not remembering moments, because like I get really excited whenever I do interviews, because I always interview people that I love and respect and admire. And then when the interview's over, my girlfriend will go, oh, what did they say? And I'll go, I don't know. I'm really excited to go back and watch the tape.
I was so turned on. I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of interviews, especially energetic ones, you get done, you're like, I hope I didn't say anything racist. Anyway, see me at the Chicago Theater. You're just like, I hope I didn't say anything that's going to wreck my career forever. So you try to put your best foot forward with the best of intentions. It's also why I brought the dog.
Honestly, you can never go wrong with it. Well, before this is over, I have to bring you over to meet Daenerys before this is done. What's funny, and I feel like what's brilliant about your stand-up is that I feel like it could be two completely different experiences, sometimes for men and for women. My girlfriend watches you and says, "Oh my God, this is so true. Thank you for articulating this in this way." And then sometimes I watch it, I go, "Oh, this is good." Like I got my pen and paper, I'm taking notes. I'm like, okay, that's actually really good to know. That's okay. That's actually great. Whenever you're on stage, can you see, even though you're saying the same joke to the same people, can you see two different experiences happening between one person and another?
No, because I keep the lights dark, so I don't have to make eye contact because I think it's uncomfortable. But I acknowledge that, look, I'm there to mostly unburden myself of the weird things that I think. And I like that it gives women, first and foremost, I like that it's funny, but I like that it's relatable. And relatability also comes from people who aren't like you finding a common ground with that. And I think a big part of the reason I have so many male fans is because they can enjoy it without feeling vilified. I like to walk a very fine line where everyone, no matter who you are, leaves the theater thinking someone else is the problem. But I don't pull any punches and I don't take sides.
My girlfriend and I are going to come to the show in September. I feel like a majority of the show is going to be like us looking at each other being like, "See, I told you the whole time."
That's you. You do see that a lot. You'll be like, and your husband will be like, "That's you. You're disgusting. You're gross." And she's talking about you.
Okay, but to that point, though, I feel like one of the things I love about your stand-up is that oftentimes you're the person that is the punchline. And I'm sort of curious how that is important as a comedian to be able to, before you laugh at anybody else. I feel like you laugh at yourself a lot, which again makes you very relatable.
Yeah, you could be self-deprecating, but you can also be self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
Like, part of it is just knowing what you look like, what you represent, and just being honest about yourself, because before you can take aim at everyone else, you have to offer yourself up. And that doesn't mean necessarily crapping on yourself or always making yourself the punching bag. I mean, look, I am aware of what I look like. So when I get up there and I'm like, and talking to guys is hard. It's like, first of all, you're married, but people won't believe it as much. So you have to find the truth in the truth of what you're saying. You have to find the part that's relatable. You have to find what about you, no matter what you look like, cuts through to it and makes people relate to you.
Sure. I feel like when you have all these major cities that you're going to and these major venues, it's impossible to expect that every single show is going to be different. If I were to follow you to Denver, to Boston, to Chicago, there's a good chance I'm going to hear a lot of the same jokes. It's how it works. But I'm sort of curious, is there any aspect of the city that you sort of look at in advance to kind of pepper it in to make sure that the Chicago experience is different than the Boston experience or the Denver experience?
Oh, I've been doing this long enough. It's not so much in advance as much as that, like, you kind of know the vibe of the city. Look, every audience could surprise you. Like, who knew Salt Lake City was such an incredible town for comedy? But, you go to Chicago, there's certain things, it's a Midwestern group. It's a smart group. We all know that meat is a vegetable there. Like, there's certain things, and, you're aware of the cultural differences. But at the end of the day, in general, my fans tend to be like very sweet, open-minded, fun people. And I have about 15 to 20 minutes of stuff that I add in, take out, play around with. But when you see me at the Chicago Theater September 8th for the Hard Feelings tour, I'm sorry. Yeah, Hard Feelings, that's the name of the tour. You're going to be seeing the new hour that I'm doing, give or take a couple of minutes. And so I'm just so excited to come back. I shot Confirmed Kills in Chicago, and this is, I think, my second or third time back at the Chicago Theater. I love playing it there. The last time I was there, I was very pregnant, but didn't stop me from having a good time.
That's amazing. I'm going to cut you loose on this. I was wondering if we could kind of end by going back to the beginning, because I love this idea of you going from, a small comedy venue with maybe, a couple of dozen people to selling out in front of thousands of people. What is the most important lesson you learned playing in those small venues when you were fighting to scrape by and you were sort of climbing the ladder that still is applicable in front of 12 people or 12,000 people or whatever the case may be?
Yeah, I remember I played a Zanies in Vernon Hills. I don't even know if that's open anymore. And I remember that show because I dumped a drink on someone in the front row who was very rude. I don't know if it's a lesson as much as as much as difficult as those small gigs are, and as much crowd wrangling as there is, and as unpredictable as those nights can be in those clubs, those are the building blocks for a sustainable career. Having the skill set to deal with any disruption, to deal with drunk people. I had a woman one time who was on drugs and high and cried through my entire set. Being able to withstand that and still do a professional show, it serves you eventually, because then you're bulletproof. And so while all of those years were difficult and scary and unpredictable, I wouldn't trade them for anything, because they've made me the comic I am today. So it's always about doing the work and not having anything handed to you, which would have been great, by the way.
Oh, sure. Okay, I just want to ask about that, because I'm always amazed whenever I see videos of like a heckler going after a comedian or something and then just getting destroyed and shut down. My mind always goes to like, there's my dog wants to say hi, by the way. I'm always amazed at like, why would you try to like go toe to toe with a person who's literally the funniest person in the room, who is
alcohol?
That's always the answer.
And a dark room in any situation brings out a confidence, brings out a hubris that could be unprecedented by anything else in your life. And sometimes people think that they're helping. People are raised by wolves, and it shows when you get them in a dark room and they're nervous and there's alcohol, and it will do crazy things to your quiet aunt who you thought was mute up until that point. So the answer is alcohol.
So whenever that happens, is there a part of you that's like, okay, like here we go, like I'm ready for this, I got this?
It's like shooting fish in a barrel. But I will say, sometimes like I've gone off on people just because like girls got to eat. Sometimes it's fun to play with your food, but at this level, when you're doing venues this big, you don't tend to get, I mean, those videos you see are usually like at comedy clubs, and there's a 2-drink minimum because they are kind of encouraging
pay the
it.
bills.
At this level, people tend to not do that. And if you do, I might deal with it for a second or two, but if you prove to be a problem, I just kick you out, because so many people, I really respect the money that my fans spend and the time they set aside for this. And I have to ensure that they have a good time, and we can't have a disruption because somebody wants to be a hero. So you'll just get kicked out. You will not be part of the show in a good way.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Well, the only thing that you're going to hear on mine is that you might hear me go like, I know her. That's my close personal friend. We spoke once. We were best friends.
Hopefully it's not so quiet that I can hear you.
That's
hear you whispering.
Yeah, that's fair. That's very fair. Seriously, you're the absolute best. I really do hope that you enjoy your time here and that you actually get to, get out and hopefully it's great weather. And okay, really quick. I have the worst battery in the world on my laptop. I'm going to bring you over to meet Daenerys. If my battery dies, I'm so sorry, but you're the absolute best. And thank you for your time.
Okay, let's see it.
Okay. All right. Let me bring you over to meet Daenerys. Come here. Come here. Come here. Oh, here she's laying on the ground. Come here. Oh, come here.
Let's see. Dude. Oh my goodness.
Oh, come here. Oh.
No, she's having a moment. Oh wow, she's huge.
Oh,
hello.
She's very spoiled, but I got her from an animal shelter here in Chicago.
Of course you did. Yeah.
She's a good girl. So
she's beautiful. Mazel tov.
Yeah. All right. So seriously, thank you for your time. I really do appreciate you, and hopefully I'll see you in a couple of weeks here in Chicago.
See you in Chicago.
All right.
Bye,
see you later.
Thank you.
Bye. Of course. Thank you. Bye.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.